Hello everyone, this is Kevin Jones from PCI Geomatics. We're pleased that you could join us today. We are just about ready to start the webinar. We're going to give everyone about a minute to get settled in and log into the session, and then we'll get going. So we'll be back in 1 minute. Well, once again, everyone, welcome to our webinar entitled Forest Inventory Monitoring Through Earth Observation, Scandinavian Case Study. My name is Kevin, and today I'm very pleased to have a guest presenter who is a partner of PCI Geomatics and also a very experienced remote sensing and forestry specialist from Norway. His name is Nils Erik Jørgensen, and he's joining us today from his offices in Norway. So let's get going. Our webinar is inspired by some work that Nils Erik has been working on in the recent years. Specifically, he's developed a lot of expertise in terms of using remote sensing imagery for monitoring forest areas, and so the presentation today will hopefully give you a sense of the tools that are available within Geomatica, which are tools that Nils Erik has been using, and also some of the results that he's been able to achieve, and furthermore some of the challenges and issues to keep in consideration when using remote sensing as a technique for forest monitoring. So just before we get deep into the topic, I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of the logistics. The lines are all muted at the moment except for mine. So that's just to disrupt any kind of noise in case the presentation gets interrupted by some noise in the background. So also the questions panel is available to you at any time. If you have a question about anything that you see, feel free to type it in. We do have myself and Nils Erik working within the interface, and we can answer questions, or we'll do a Q&A session at the end of the formal presentation. The webinar is being recorded, so if you want to share it with your colleagues, or if you want to review a certain part of what we presented, you can go back and play it. We'll be sending a link around to everyone that registered for the webinar. Just a few words on myself and Nils Erik. So I'm the Director of Marketing at PCI. I've been with the company for about 7 years, and my background is in remote sensing applications. I've worked for a data provider company based in Canada for imagery collection. I've also worked for a service provider, so a company that uses imagery and other information to provide services or value-added services based on geospatial imagery and technology, and now I'm working for a software provider which makes tools that are available within the geospatial industry. So I like to think that I have a nice rounded skill set in terms of the different facets of the industry. Nils is the founder and owner of TerraNor. TerraNor is a company based in Norway, and they provide services to the forest industry, which is obviously a big sector in Scandinavia in terms of the activity. The expertise of Nils dates back to his education within the Norwegian University of Life Sciences. He has a master's degree in forestry from that university, and he's also developed a lot of experience working with remote sensing technology for forest health monitoring, and has also worked for the Norwegian State Forestry Agency. Nils has a lot of experience using PCI technology and other geospatial image processing technology for the benefit of his clients. So Nils will be presenting in a few minutes. What we'll start with is a short poll, actually. So we always like to know who's joining us for these webinars and what your interest is. So the first poll that we are trying to get a sense of the audience is what kind of imagery are you currently using for forestry monitoring applications? Do you currently use high-resolution satellite imagery, optical? Is it medium resolution? Is it high-resolution aerial as opposed to satellite? Or perhaps you're working with commercial UAV imagery, which is certainly something that's being used more and more these days. And if there is something else that you're using, maybe you're using synthetic aperture radar, or maybe you're using LiDAR or something like that, feel free to choose other and provide us with those answers in the extra panel, in the questions panel. You could just type in your answer and we'll keep track of that. Most of you have voted. I'm just going to leave it open for a few more seconds. So I'm going to count down from 3, 2, 1. Oh, it looks like a few people are still jumping at the last minute there. So thank you for all of those who have voted. I just want to show you the results so you get a sense. So it's actually a pretty even split in terms of all the different technologies, and it seems like maybe high-resolution aerial and commercial UAV are perhaps the most frequently used data types for forest inventory monitoring. So moving along, what I wanted to do is just really quickly introduce PCI Geomatics and our product line. This pretty much summarizes where PCI sits in terms of our offering in the market. We provide desktop image processing software for remote sensing, orthomosaicing, and also image analysis. It's known as Geomatica. And then on the right-hand side, we have our high-volume production system known as GXL. This is typically used by mapping agencies or ground receiving stations that want to produce large mosaics of continuous areas, and really the operational efficiencies can be realized through these high volume production systems, and underlying all of our technology is our ability to automate and scale and to be flexible. So we have Python technology built in, which allows you to break down different parts of our software into individual components and build specific workflows. If we take that one step further, we like to think of our technology as really being a platform. So at the very bottom of this platform, we have over 550 algorithms that are available within Geomatica. On top of that layer, we have a development environment, which we call the Geomatica Python API. And then if you combine that with third-party tools, for example, ArcGIS or QGIS or any other tool really for that matter, you can plug that in through the use of Python. And then if you add some expert knowledge, for example, today we're talking with Nils, who is an expert in forestry, you could either build a solution for your own internal business. So for example, if you're working for the Ministry of Forestry, you could use our technology and you could build a specific solution for your department to automate certain things. Or if you're a commercial person and you see the potential to build a solution that your customers would buy, then you could use the various parts of our technology combined with other pieces of technology to build a specific solution. So that's a quick summary of who PCI is. And what I'll do is, before I hand over to Nils, I wanted to give you a sense of forest inventory monitoring and what tools are available within Geomatica. So what I have right now on the screen is 2 data sets collected over the same location, and I'll turn off the polygons for now, and I'll just compare the first image, which was collected from Landsat in 1990, and then the second image, which was collected in 1999. So we can see that there's quite a few changes. We can see these new white areas are essentially cut blocks. So this is forest harvesting, if you will. So the road, you can see that the road ended roughly here in 1990, and if we skip forward 9 years, that road has actually been extended to the north, and and all of these new areas have been harvested. And so, of course, the interest with remote sensing technology is to be able to understand the exact area that's been harvested, not only the harvesting but also the regrowth. So if I do the inverse, and if I look at an area that has been freshly harvested in 1990, and then I look at that same area in 1999, I can see that there's actually been some regrowth. So typically logging companies have to plant trees to replace the ones that they've harvested, and we can see evidence of that, and we can assess how much regrowth has occurred over this time period. So the challenge becomes, how do you extract this information in a more automated way? We could, of course, start to manually extract this information, but that'd be very time consuming. So within PCI, within Geomatica rather, we have some change detection analysis tools. And what we can do is we can very simply select our most recent image, so 1999, and then the base image, which would be 1990, and then we can calculate a difference between those two images and report back on the percentile difference. So the other thing that we could do is we can mask areas so we can specify smaller areas to look in detail, or exclusion areas. So we have some nice flexibility here. It's a pretty simple tool, and if I run that tool, I get a couple of different results. So I can actually tune the tool to identify cut blocks. So in this case, the green areas are the high change areas from 1990 to 1999. So if I turn that off and I turn the 1999 data on top, this area would have changed very, very much. It would be a very high degree of change. So if I look at the change percentile, I can isolate those areas. The inverse of that, if I look at areas that are regrowing, so if I go back to my areas that were freshly harvested, and I turn those on with the latest data, I can actually look at the regrowth areas and identify those. And then, of course, I can run through a specific algorithm in our algorithm librarian. I mentioned there was 550 algorithms. So I can pull up the Expolras algorithm, which is short for extract polygons from raster. And then I can tune the actual extraction based on the size of object I want to extract and the threshold that I'm looking for. So if I'm looking for changes that have a high degree of change, so a high percentile, I'll tune the algorithm to pull those features out. And what I end up with are essentially polygons that delineate the exact extent, and I can calculate statistics based on these. For example, if I look at the cut blocks, I can pull up the total area, so I can calculate the total area, the perimeter, and obtain information on the change that has occurred for a specific feature between my two images. So that's pixel-based change detection that we can perform using technology that's available right now. And the alternative is actually some new technology that PCI is developing and will be coming to market with very soon, is object-based classification. So if I actually use that same data set and perform a segmentation, so this is actually a new capability. It's called Object Analyst. We haven't released it yet, but it's currently in the alpha stage. And you can see that what I've done is I've essentially done a segmentation on the data. And so these specific areas represent the exact delineation or the exact extent of the cut blocks. And that's just through the segmentation without having done any classification whatsoever. Added to that, we created, in this case, some training polygons, and then we ran a SVM classification, and we were able to classify water bodies and cut blocks and coniferous and deciduous forest, and you can see the results here. So it's a very intuitive, very nice tool that's coming available very soon within the next version of Geomatica 2017. And I wanted to show you that because it's a new capability that's really going to allow customers to go even further than just doing pixel-based classification. And also the tool is, we like to think that it's easier to use than perhaps some of the other object analyst capabilities, the object-oriented classification tools that are out there. Ours is very straightforward. It's very workflow-based, and you can do things like filter on specific classes. So, for example, if I wanted to improve my coniferous stand and I wanted to use a condition and select a specific feature, I can pull up, for example, the mean value of near infrared as a filter, and what I can do is I can interactively decide what thresholds to use and visually see what impact that has in terms of the selection of the segmented objects that have been created through the segmentation. So this is just a quick review of, or a quick preview of what's going to be coming with object-based classification. So all that to say that PCI basically is developing great technology for advanced image analysis. What Nils is going to be presenting is based on the current technology and obviously all of his great experience that he's accumulated over the years. So with that, I will actually hand control over to Nils. And Nils, we still can't hear you. I'm not sure if you can unmute yourself.
I didn't mute myself. Can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we can see it.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, good morning, everybody. I thought I would just start off with a slide from that should give some memories back to a lot of Canadians. Because when we started off working in GIS in forestry back in 1985, we started off with a system called TerraSoft. The international audience may not remember that, but I'm quite sure quite a few from Canada will know this software. And this Torchman was created in the forest up at Lillehammer for the Winter Olympics in 1994. And actually TerraSoft was doing a 3D modeling, and through the help of TerraSoft we could be able to log this Torchman out in the forest. I actually always wanted to write my name in one of those hillsides, but I was never able to make some forest owners to help me do that. But I think this is a great thing to have, and every time Canadians come here, we show them this is a real footprint of TerraSoft. As I'm a forester, I've also worked with remote sensing and PCI since 1993. So we started work going from GIS into remote sensing and analysis. And in the beginning it was low resolution satellites, and for Scandinavian forestry it was not very interesting. The first presentation that Kevin made was from Canada, and in Canada you can have a resolution of 15 to 30 meters without a problem. In Scandinavia it's not good enough. But around year 2000 we started to get high resolution satellites with resolution from 1 to 2 meters down to the most modern satellites today with a resolution of 30 to 50 centimeters. And this image shows a typical application with a resolution of 50 centimeters where we have detected deciduous trees that need to be cleared in the coniferous plantings. This is very easily done if you have an infrared channel. We discussed with scientists and practitioners around the world what sort of resolution would it be the best for application in forestry in the boreal areas. And they all seem to end up with a resolution around 50 centimeter is a very good resolution for forestry. This is another example for our object-based analysis. This was pre-PCI object-based analysis, we used another tool, but it shows how easy it is to work with imagery and to classify forest. The Scandinavian forests are natural. The trees vary in size from 15 to 30 meters, and the normal height is 20 to 25 meters when we log. We have a mixture of spruce, pine, birch, oak, and several other deciduous species. Normally, we divide them into spruce, pine, and deciduous. In the Scandinavian forest, deciduous are not that important. This image shows how easy it is to detect the different species. And we can also see sick and dead trees and find natural boundaries for new clear cuts. If you look up here, in this area up here, you will see a lot of red colors that are dead trees along a stream. It turned out to be a beaver dam. And when the beaver made his dam, the water killed all the trees along that stream. So when we classify that very easily, because we got no infrared reflectance from those trees. We see the yellow trees, they are deciduous. We see the green, it's not that easy for you maybe, but that's the spruce and the brown is pine. And that's what we need in Scandinavia. In this image, we also used both LiDAR and DSM from stereometry. And here PCI has got a very good tool for creating terrain models from stereometry, and by using that we can create the tree heights. In Scandinavia we do have a LiDAR for most of the areas, especially in Sweden they have a full cover, the whole country, with LiDAR. So in the future we can manage to do DCM with from stereometry and get the tree heights. So that's giving us a very good tool for future analysis. And as you see, we did not analyze areas that are lower than 15 meters on this screen. In this example, we're going to look at a special thing for change detection. We're a reseller for different imagery from different providers. We have concentrated on high resolution data from Digital Globe and ComSat, and we get this ComSat data from SI Imaging Services. For this project, we're going to show you work with ComSat 2. It is a 1 meter resolution image with a 4 meter resolution multispectral, but we pan sharpen everything down to 1 meter. The ComSat is a satellite come from Korea. They have several high-resolution optical and radar satellites that we sell through SI Imaging Services. The channels are panchromatic. Then we have the standard green, blue, near infrared, and red. And in Northern Europe, they pass over around 11 o'clock in the morning. When we started selling these satellite images, we were approached by the Swedish Forest Owners Association, Norra skog. They wanted to see if we could find some change detection and help them update their maps. They have some old imagery from 2012, and they wanted to update the inventory for a property of 300 hectares. The only thing they needed was to find the new clear cuts, find the new roads, and actually just look at the changes. So it was a simple task to find that. Why not? They did not want to spend a lot of money on this, so we offered ComSat 2 as a best price quality combination. I will come back to the technical details and why we went for this satellite. This is a satellite image. This was taken in May 2016. In a PCI Gematica, we auto-rectified the image with use of the original image from the last screen, where we picked the ground control points. The Land Survey in Sweden provided us with a free DTM from LiDAR. That's free for whole of Sweden. So by using the DTM and the ground control points from the original image, we could create auto-rectify the image from the ComSat image. And by using the original image, they fit very well. So this is the result, because we wanted to look at the changes. And if you look here on all the red areas, you can see the clear cuts that was created. And here we run the change detection algorithm that Kevin showed us previously. I'm coming back to more details how we run it. But here we see it quite obviously, the colors, we see the clear cuts. If I go back one slide, you see the clear cuts. And now you see the original forest with red marking where we had the clear cuts. And this worked very well. We used PCI on the web page. I have a procedure how to run this process. It's very simple. You just take one image and subtract the old image, and then you get the changes. Nice and easy. And you know, and then we did the next step, created polygons. And then we could have ended the webinar here, but as you will see, the devil is in the details. It wasn't possible to run a proper polygons from this image. And I think you will also find with object-based classification, you will run into some of the same problems. So let's go and dive into these problems. The human brain can automatically detect new road and new clear cut in this image just by looking at the density of the red dots and pixels. We automatically remove areas with lower density of red dots as something else. But if you run PCI software and do classification of polygons, it will include all the other red dots unless you tell it not to. High resolution is certainly not a benefit. It becomes a problem. And this is what this presentation is about, how to solve the problems by using high resolution. And first we need to know, why do we get this problem? We have to remember how these data were captured. The first image to the left is a new satellite image. We have zoomed in over some trees. If there are any foresters out there, you'll probably recognize that these are spruce trees. They look like this, right? And then we have the original air photo. And then we do the change detection. And of course, when we do classification like this, we look at the pixel values. That's what we do here. This is not object-based. This is just looking purely at the pixel values. And pixel values for spruce and pine and deciduous have their values, as you saw on some of the first images. But when you do classification here, we have a forest stand. We have zoomed in at the forest stand, and all of a sudden we get the forest stand with no changes at all. We got a lot of red dots that shows that this has been changed. And this is due to the fact that the satellite and the original air photo have different sensor angle, or the camera has a different angle to the forest. The tree heights go up high, 20 meters, and on an orthophoto, the trees will end up in different places on different, because of the camera angle. The air photo will have a central projection, so the trees will be leaning out of the center. In the center of the image of an air photo, you will look straight down to the top of a tree, and that's normally not a problem. But when you come out to the sides, the trees will be leaning more and more out, and they will be offset from the original position in the image. In the satellite, they will having the same angle all over the image, and that's one of the benefits with the satellite. But if you have, let's say, looking at an angle from 20 degrees on a satellite, you still be offset, and what will happen that the trees will not be in the same position in the satellite and original air photo. So when you go with high resolution, you will have changes recorded in areas where there are no changes. So how do we solve this? How do you get around this problem of high resolution and trees not being trees? Actually, the example from PCI with the Landsat images told us what to do. The Landsat images with a 15 to 30 meter resolution, with that resolution they cover a lot of trees. So what you get there is an average value for trees and shadows over larger areas. So you don't look at single trees, you more or less look at the forest stand. So like we say in Norway, you don't see the forest because of the trees. And that's the problem with the high resolution. So what we did as first step, we re-sampled all the data to 5 meter resolution, both the satellite and the original air photo. And then we did a new change detection and got the changes. That seemed to be a good start. But still, the result was not good enough. If you look at the change detection, well, kind of difficult on this zoomed-in example, but we found the result was not good enough. In this image, you will see the satellite up to the left, the original image up to the right, and the classification of change detection at the bottom. When we do, when Kevin showed his change detection, he used colors for this. In this image here, I only used intensity. So the brighter value, means white, means greater change, and the darker value means less change. So, so I added some polygons here. I just draw a polygon around the new clear cuts. So if you compare the left image top with the right image top, you see where the clear cuts have come. And if you look at the change detection at the bottom, you'll see that they got much higher value here. So no, that's something. And this is, by this we use a filtering to average out any minor changes in the stand. So both resampling to 5 meter and then filter the result by 5 times 5. So then we did a command in PCI called Expolras. Kevin didn't show the actual threshold values, but they will vary from project to project, and if you use percentile or real values. But we tried with different values here. One thing, when you do the threshold values, you're looking at the higher value for changes. And here I found the value which should at least be 78. But when you do that, still you get a lot of small polygons. So we said, okay, minimum area for these polygons with changes should be 50 pixels. Maximum area we didn't care. So we try this, and you see the bottom, the green one. We try some other. And what you do in this step, you try different values for different settings to be sure that you're getting up the right type of polygons you need. So the result is quite good. If you look here, you'll see the clear cuts are found very well. Delineation is very good. And this, I mean, this is only pixel-based. It's very fast, very quick, do a good job. And if you bring these polygons into your GIS, where you have information about the forest, and in Europe, especially in Scandinavian countries, we have H classes, We know which forests are major, which are the old forests, which are young forests. So we have a reasonable good forest stand inventory. If we compare that with the clear cuts, you can easily update your maps. The best thing with this one is actually that you find areas that have been thinned, because they will also be representing changes in pixel values. So this area to the right here, if you see where I'm pointing, are showing areas where they've been thinned, not clear cut. And inside the clear cut, you also see we have subtracted small piece of forest that remains. Single trees are not covered here. We have resampled to 5 by 5 meters and also done some filtering, so they get away. But still, we think the result here is good. It's a good help for finding what has happened in your forest. And sometimes you also see small details that you wouldn't see just by doing a manual digitizing, which is also an option. So this data was in a land survey aerial photo with the 8-bit data set, and we compared it with the satellite image came from ComSat with 16-bit or actually 10-bit data. So we had to convert everything down to 8-bit to do the analysis. Yeah, I got to talk a little bit about how you should compare imagery. First of all, you should try to work with the highest bit map possible. That goes for any type of imagery or data you have. Normally, with some GIS software, they have been resampling down to 8-bit because of the size of the imagery and for the speed of redrawing on screen. For the human eye, that's not a problem. But you will lose details in classification. There are some minor details that will move, and if you have, let's say, some deciduous tree species that are very close in spectral values, you might mix them up because you're removing information going from 12-bit to 8-bit. This is not actually very specialist in remote sensing will argue that this is not correct, but this is the mathematical difference between 12-bit and versus 8-bit. Satellite, optical satellite, they have 11-bit. Some new satellites have 14-bit, so there's a big variation. The key is, if you have more bits on the sensor, you shouldn't remove them because you remove information. And some other things we should consider when you're doing imagery analysis in forestry. This is based on experience I had with friends in Canada and the United Kingdom and other places I worked with. I worked with this for a long time with a lot of people, so I tried to combine all the practical knowledge from all of them. And I come up to this little slide here. You should always order 16-bit images if you can. And you order the pixel size you can afford. You can always translate 50 centimeters up to 5 meters, but you can't take a 5 meter pixel size down to 50 centimeters. That's not doable. Higher resolution is not always better. So, like we went off for this project, we went out to 1 meter resolution, which is quite good for both detecting new roads and changes. And we resampled it up to 5 meters. You should store all channels, not only RGB. Some of these land survey around Europe, they had either RGB or what they call false color, which is infrared, green, blue. We would like to work with these as, we look at these as data, not not pictures. So trying to use all channels, and some of the satellite channels have 8 channels. If you have a hyperspectral with sorry, if you have hyperspectral with 64 or 128 channels, try to use the channels that are important to you. For forestry and for agriculture, the greatest value is in the chlorophyll. You hear that's the new channel. What they use now is red H. It's between near infrared and red, and that's where the chlorophyll is most active, sending back the reflectance. In my opinion, good radiometry is always good. So having a good sensor with a good radiometry is sometimes much better than having high resolution. And when you do change detection, you should compare similar sensors. Do not try to compare a hyperspectral with a multispectral 4-channel. That is not fair. A lot of technical stuff we could talk about there, but trying to compare apples with apples and oranges with oranges when you do change detection. One thing though, that's what I actually learned from Canadian project. If you use winter images on snow, you can actually see clear cuts on a lot of information very quickly. And that's actually very good if you want to find your clear cuts, because they stand up as white while the forest stand out as dark. So that's brilliant. The other thing, if you got, let's say, 20 centimeters of fresh snow, and you take your plantings, you can see these trees sticking up of the snow. Some parts of the world you don't have snow, but you would have winter season or a dry season. So by taking some images in the dry season rather than the wet season, the rain season, you can have a different result. So you should know your own country and play around with different conditions and try to use different images from different times to see what you can see. For forestry, my opinion is satellite images are better because you don't have all the problems with leaning trees. Of course, when you go for UAV and high resolution data, you can see a lot of details on the ground. And for manual interpretation, that's great. But remember that the new satellites now come out with 30 centimeters resolution with a high quality and a good radiometry. And you can still have all the trees leaning the same way almost, and if you're lucky you get them all straight from the top. So it's much easier then to classify and get a homogeneous result for larger areas. Okay, this is the summary of what we did. We tested pixel change detection in PCI Gematica on an aerial image from July 2012, and one comes up to satellite image from May 2016. Both were in 1 meter resolution, and by using PCI change detection, we found all the changes in the new satellite image. We found this method, which is quite simple. You don't have to pick samples, you just 3 or 4 functions you need to run. Very simple to use. It's fast. You can process an image like this in 1 hour. The alternative to do this processing is to send out 1 or 2 people in the forest for several days. Or if you have a UAV to do the same work, you still will have to at least spend 1 day out in the forest capturing the data. If you order a satellite image through us or your local provider, you just tell them the area you want, and the same week or next week you'll have the image in the door. And if you look here, if you only look for the clear cuts, manual digitizing is still an option, and you can see it quite well easily to do. It's not a big task to digitize this area manually, and until you wait for the real next real update of your forest. So by this, I think we'll leave the Kevin to take over. I guess he's got a new poll to run now.
Yes, thank you, Nils, for that. Excellent presentation, and hopefully that gives everyone a sense of the challenges and the opportunities that present themselves with forest inventory monitoring using Earth observation. So having seen that presentation and based on your experience, we'd like to know what you think are the biggest pain points in terms of using imagery for forest inventory type of work. Is it that the quality of the imagery is too poor? Is it that the imagery is too costly? Is it resources that are required to perform the analysis, so staff that are have gained expertise like Nils to understand how to interpret the imagery and extract information? Maybe the result that you're getting is just not precise enough and you still need to go in the field and collect information. Or lastly, is the software that you have tried to work with just not working for you? It's too complicated to use, or it doesn't have the right features or functions for your specific application. So interested to see what your inputs are on that poll, and that just helps us to better understand where you're coming from and what your experience is, and I'll share that with the group in just a few more seconds, so I'll leave that open for just a few more seconds here. I'll count down from 3, so 3, 2, 1, and thank you everyone for voting on that, and I'll just show you the results. And seems like image cost and resources required to perform image analysis are the barriers that people are identifying. And so with that, I just want to give a quick summary of our session today and give you maybe some next steps and point you in the direction of some resources. We do have a trial, of course, available for Geomatica. It's a fully functional 30-day trial. It's available on our website at pcigeomatics.com. We've started to implement some self-paced online courses. We currently have 2 courses available on Udemy, which is a platform for delivering e-learning. So both of those courses are free. One is on, and actually they come with imagery as part of the course. One is on correcting historical images, and the other one is on high-resolution aerial orthomosaicing processing. We have lots of webinars available on many different topics, mining, flooding, lots of different application areas. If you search through our website, if there's a specific area that you're interested in. Of course, we have a lot of case studies and technical documents, and if you have a specific area that you're curious about, you can contact us. What I'll do right now is I will put up Nils's contact info, which I don't think we provided yet. Let me just pull that up here. I've got it, Nils, so it'll just take me a second to pull it up. So with that, we're open for questions. If you have any questions, please put them in the panel, and I will field them live and make sure that myself or Nils can answer them. Are there any questions out there on any of the material that we've presented, or any questions in general about remote sensing and Geomatica or Nils's company? Nils, we have a question relating to UAV imagery. Do you have any experience there, and can you talk about some of the challenges and trends? Everyone's all very excited about UAV technology. Can you give us your experience there or your insights on how it's being used in forest applications?
I'm not very clever in UAV and forestry. I know it's been used for sampling. The problem with UAV until now has been the aviation regulations. They're now loosening up, so now people can use. For early, they couldn't fly that much. You had to have a special allowance to fly them. But with the smaller UAVs now you can fly as long as you have a line of sight. But that means if you're going to take a property, and let's say in a steep terrain, you have to drive around the forest so you can see the drone all the time. But by doing that, there's a lot of good software on the market where you can auto-rectify this image in this simple way. There's also a place now on the internet where you can upload the imagery and get back auto-rectified, because this is done you don't need a trained model for that. As long as you provide enough info. So I think that's a good thing. And if you get that, you can do same sort of classification as we did in this example. And I know that your colleagues from South Africa used the UAV drones and then did the mosaicing in PCI when images were rectified, because PCI has some pretty good tools for doing mosaic and merges things together and color balancing. This is something challenging. So yes.
Great. We have another question, Nils. I think it's more application specific as it relates to illegal cutting of forest stands. Do you have experience there in terms of an organization that is successfully detecting illegal deforestation, and what does that look like in terms of the use of remote sensing technology?
Good question. I was at a conference in Munich at Digital Globe. They have some international organizations looking at imagery, and that was more for war crimes. But I guess you might find the same thing for legal logging as well. You know, in Europe, that's not a big issue because most of the land is private and so dense populated. But they will come out through the Sentinel data. You will have radar data and a lot of free data where you can do this for free. So yeah, and then this change detection in PCI would be a very good solution there, because it's fast and easy, and you don't need that detailed. Just a comment about cost here, because I saw some of the cost. The image we used for this project was $200 US. $200 is not much when you compare to, let's say, have 2 people out for a week coming in the forest.
What size of an area did that cover, Nils?
300 hectares.
Okay.
So it means you can actually cover small. But that's the smallest size, the smallest price to do for ComSat 2 archives. So prices are going down on satellite imagery. So do not think is very expensive, because a new satellite comes out with lower cost.
Okay. So this is the extent of the data then, the full extent that's up on the screen right now, that was ordered for this project?
Yeah. Yes,
okay.
I don't remember. There's they have a smaller size. I think it's I don't remember the smallest size they have, but but that came down to $200.
Okay. There's a follow-up question, I think, to your comment that you made at near one of the ending part of your presentation on winter images, and are those effective for selective cuts as opposed to pure clear cuts, like thinning, I guess, would be the equivalent of selective cuts. Hopefully I've characterized that properly.
I think so, but I think my experience that you need the fresh fallen snow. We actually took some images up in January in Sweden. No one thought it could work, but it worked excellent. But for that type of selective logging, you should have fresh snow. Then I think you will see it. And if you have the changes, you can see it, I think, quite clearly.
Okay, great. There was a question on the type of segmentation that's going to be available within Object Analyst, and I can quickly show that under segmentation we essentially have one method. None of this is currently live or documented, so I don't think I can pull up the help and show that. But it's we'll be providing more information on the specifics. The software has actually been developed through a PhD student that PCI has hired from Queen's University, and his work was on object-based image classification, and so that technology has been commercialized now as part of our offering. So that's where the technology is coming from. I had a question here about whether the red edge band has been effective to identify diseased trees.
Yes, absolutely. We do a project with a company in Hong Kong, and it's a combination of red edge and near infrared, and we have several examples where you can see this clearly.
Okay, that's great. We'll be sure to follow up with that individual. I don't know if there's any more questions. I don't see any more coming in, and we're coming up to the hour. We're just about 5 minutes before the end. I want to say my thank yous and make sure that everyone lets us know. I have a final poll. Just interested to see if you'd like to learn more, if you'd like us to get in touch, or if you want to get in touch with us. Maybe this isn't something that you're specifically focused on, but you were just curious from an application point of view today, that's fine. We just want to get a sense of whether you'd like some follow-up here. And we will be answering all of the questions and distributing the answers as well. And in addition to that, we will provide a recording to the webinar. So Nils, I'd like to thank you very, very much for your time and your expertise and insights in terms of this application. And I'd like to thank the attendees for being with us today, and wish you all a good rest of your day. So thank you very much.